At Rubberband, we empower each other through positivity, kindness, and practical advice. Join a community of thousands of peers who understand the unique challenges you face. Rubberband. Company agnostic, low ego, high empathy, always supportive. And we are live. Welcome, listeners, to today's episode of the Rubberband podcast, where I am joined by extra special guest, Will Ainsley from Testgrid, talking about a brand new product, Scheduler. Now, before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that I live and work on, the Wadawurrung and Dja Dja Wurrung people. I recognise their continuing connection to the land and waterways. I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and I would like to extend this to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Welcome, my old friend, Will. I can't believe I just said my old friend. You know, I'm probably of similar age, if not older. But anyway,
let's not dive into that one.
Time friend, Will. How you doing?
Hi, Eden. Hi, everyone. Very good for a Friday afternoon. Thank you very much for asking.
I know, very, very good to commence a Friday afternoon podcast with a little bit of a faux pas. That's lightened the mood a little bit here, Will. You know?
It's my greyness and my well, should I say whiteness, probably, rather than grey anymore. I wish for the days of grey. So.
I'm the same. Like I've stopped colouring. I've just given up on all of that, and it's now, you know, mid-40s. Embrace the white. You know,
exactly.
White.
Yep.
Yeah. But anyway, we're not here to talk about hair, but I might do another episode about hair if anyone wants to put their hand up. We're here to talk about yourself. We're here to talk about Testgrid. We're here to talk about a brand new product, Scheduler. But I always like to start for our audience to get to know you a little bit more, Will. So what I'm keen to understand, and, you know, I sense perhaps not an Aussie accent there. So why don't you tell me about growing up? Where are you from? Tell me about your childhood, your family, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so yes, as you can probably tell, I'm from England. So I'm from, well, I was really born in London, but I don't remember it. So I sort of moved out when I was 2, and I moved up to a city called Derby, which is about as far away from the sea as you can get in the UK. So it's not known for anything apart from it used to be good at football. It's no longer good at football. And the only fascinating fact I can think about Derby is they're currently building the nuclear power plants for the submarines that are coming to Australia. So
there you go.
That is, you know, at Rolls-Royce. So that's about it. I grew up there. Family, I've got a brother still there, or close by in Nottingham. He runs a brewery, so he's got a much more exciting job than me.
Oh gosh, that's a dream job. I wouldn't mind running a brewery. Hello.
No, it's all right, isn't it? Yeah.
It is. Oh, there you go.
It's literally his dream job. So so he's good. And my mum and dad still live in Derby as well. So yeah, but born and bred. I've moved around a bit, so I've had various jobs and sort of moved around the UK and that kind of thing. And then, moved to Australia 12, 13 years ago.
Well, I'm really keen to hear about your career, but before we sort of talk through that, tell me when you were young fella in Derby and in the United Kingdom, what were your aspirations in terms of career? Where did you think you were going to be?
That's a really interesting question. I think for a long time, both my parents were teachers. So for a long time, I planned to be a teacher. But really, I should have seen how hard they worked and decided against that. So maybe that's what happened. I think I didn't know what I wanted to do for a long time. I've had when I was at school, I did okay. But I didn't really have anything that grabbed me necessarily. I went to law school.
Oh, wow.
But only really because I decided that if you're going to do something that probably not going to exclude you from any of the jobs. So it kind of kept my pathways open. But yes, I spent 3 years at law school and decided there was no way in life I wanted to be a lawyer. So.
That's something that I would be terrible at. So I can understand that. But you're clearly a very clever fella, and I can't wait to hear about your career. What was your very first job?
Pot washing in a hotel at Christmas, which will be unnamed because I saw some things that really, when you go to those big Christmas parties and everything's laid out on the buffet, I always wondered why they asked us to separate the meat and the vegetables. And found out because they put that meat back.
Oh gosh!
Yeah. So that place is no longer there. There is no defamation libel coming your way.
And I get the nerves as well, like, because I used to do a lot when I was a florist. I used to do a lot of event work, and I would go and set the tables with flowers and things like that. And quite often, I'd see quite a lot of food in places that didn't make me overly comfortable, and pots with meat on the floor and all sorts. Like, it is a bit scary.
It was a horrific job, but it was it's a good grounding thing of, well, go and do this if you want to earn money. My friend worked there. He was a waiter. I thought I was getting a job as a waiter. No, straight into the kitchens. Yeah, puddles of water everywhere.
Oh gosh.
Go and wash up for 6 hours. So.
Okay. Hey, I think hospitality though, or doing even pot cleaning or working in retail, all of these kind of things that kickstart our career when we're young, it gives us that work ethic, right? You're on your feet, you're working hard, and I think it's something that sticks with you throughout your career, and that work ethic it never leaves you, right? And hats off to you, mate. You did the hard yards of washing pots in not necessarily hygienic conditions either. So there you go.
Exactly.
You do that, you can do anything.
And then I moved into, I worked in pubs for many, many years. So I had a real grounding in people, which I think has helped me throughout my career as well. I worked in, for those that have been to the UK and know Wetherspoon's pubs, so they are all over the place, but they're maybe not the most salubrious of places. So, you see a cross-section of the public.
Absolutely. I had lunch in a Wetherspoons in Dunfermline in Scotland only a few weeks ago. So,
they're great.
Well. Yep. Oh, well, look, I tell you what, the size of the glass of wine was pretty impressive. It was a little bit larger than a large, so I enjoyed that. And, steak and chips.
Yeah, significantly cheaper than you're used to paying in Melbourne as well.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Well, then walk me through your career, maybe up until the point of joining Testgrid. I'm really keen to hear, some of the roles that you've had, and also the transition to Australia. I mean, that's always a key highlight in someone's career that has moved countries. So, walk me through what was next for you.
Yeah, so I guess I worked at the Wetherspoons pubs during the summer breaks while I was at university. And then, like I said, I came out of university, knew very much I did not want to carry on doing law, but didn't know what else to do. So I just went back to working full-time in the pubs. That bought me some time, and, I guess I accidentally progressed through that and became, assistant manager and deputy manager and all those kind of things. And then got the opportunity to move away from Derby and to Nottingham and to Sutton Coldfield, which is just outside Birmingham, and to Burton-on-Trent and run my own pubs as well. So it got me, I haven't lived at home since I was 18, because it got me traveling, seeing new things, meeting new people. I did that for, I guess, 6 or 7 years. Which was really good. I really enjoyed it. I think there's only so long in your life or the working every Friday night and Saturday night grates on you after a while. I could never really understand why my friends used to come into the pub on a Friday night and say, "Are you coming out tonight?" Well, no, I'm working in the pub that you're currently in. What do you think I'm doing? So, that was always fun. But like I say, learned a lot of skills, learned a lot about people, and then decided to do a career change, and went into sales again, probably accidentally. And that's, throughout my career, I've just made some decisions and I'm pretty much fallen on my feet. I'm quite pleased with my career as it's gone. So without any great planning. So I ended up selling photocopiers, printers, software, that kind of thing in the UK, and worked at a couple of places there. And then I think I'd done that for maybe 3 or 4 years. Was doing fine, and then my wife got a tap on the shoulder. So my wife's a recruiter. She was running a recruitment branch in England. She got a tap on the shoulder saying, "Have you ever considered going to Australia?" And we said, no, we have not. But at that point, I think we'd been married, 12 months, something like that. Not probably not even that. No kids. It was like, right, go. Let's see what happens. We always said, if one of us wants to come home after a year, we'd give it a year. The other one would go without any questions asked. But no, we stayed. Happy to stay. No intention of ever going back.
So you married a recruiter? Is
I
your
know.
wife still in the recruitment industry?
She is. She works sort of part time and sort of more consulting kind of things, but yes, very much does recruitment. So I've heard all the recruitment conversations, and she did it for a long time, both in the UK and here.
Fabulous. I married her. Well, we're not married, but my partner is a recruiter, and my partner of 20 years. So we've got a house of 2 recruiters. Now you live with one of them, so you can only imagine the chaos that goes on in our house, right?
Exactly.
When there's 2. But yeah, that's fabulous. I love that. It's something new I've learned about you, mate. And then tell me, you came to Australia. Where did you kickstart your career in Australia?
Yeah, so I came without a job. So it was a lot more rushed than I guess we'd expected. I think we initially started the conversation in, say, July, and then we planned to move over in sort of February the following year, and that was all under control. And then someone left at my wife's new business, and they said, "We'll promote you if you come now." And she said, "Okay." So she went in October and left me alone in England. So I had to sell the house and do all that exciting stuff, and then moved over in January without a job. I didn't like not having a job. It wasn't particularly in a new country, and I found it took a while, probably longer than I'd hoped to get my career job. But I did things like driving forklift trucks and emptying massive containers and those kind of things, just to do something. And that was really good. And then I started working in Geelong. So we were living west in Point Cook, so west of Melbourne. Went down to Geelong to go and carry on my career in printers and photocopiers and software. So did that for 5 years, something like that. Couple of promotions, got used to worked in sales quite a lot, started to see other bits of the business, and then again I probably reached the end of that career and decided it was time to do something different.
And then ended up in HR tech. Yeah, mate. What drew you to HR tech? How did that come about? And what were your expectations of that?
I mean, again, I don't know if I've told Jared this, but let's talk about it on a podcast instead. I was probably looking at lots of different jobs where I didn't really know. I had not heard of Testgrid before. They were looking for a customer success manager, which sort of 8 years ago was a pretty new role. It didn't really exist. I don't think I'd really heard of it before, and I probably bluffed my way through knowing what it was during the interview, but that's okay. I found out afterwards. But yeah, it was just an interesting job. It was everything that I liked to focus on. So I've always been the salesperson I like to think I am, and maybe my clients can tell me the answers to this. It is not that pushy salesperson. I've been successful by trying to solve problems, and I guess that's kind of the way my mind works. is very solution focused to go, okay, what's the problem? Oh, I can fix that. And I think that always put me in good stead to deliver on what I said I was going to deliver in. And the customer success role was really good because it was looking after existing customers, keeping them happy, and finding ways to help them better. So that worked really well. I've loved Testgrid. I've not looked at another job since. That was 8.5 years ago.
Right. Yeah. That's a great innings, mate. 8.5 years.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, absolutely.
And look, I know Gerard and Amy are going to be listening, so I'm going to put you to the test here. Let's see how we go. 8.5 years. I reckon you're going to be able to answer this beautifully. Let's see how we go. Okay. Tell me, what is Testgrid? For anyone out there that hasn't come across Testgrid, or maybe has and they're not quite sure, talk me through it. What's Testgrid?
Yeah, I'll give you my answer on this. So I think there's a couple of answers. So Testgrid is a proudly Australian-owned and operated HR tech business. So we're predominantly known for psychometric assessments and video interviewing, but really we're HR tech. So we provide customers with choice and outstanding service. So we are, a one-stop shop. I really don't like that term, but essentially that's what our platform does in terms of assessments. We have about 2,500 different assessment and reporting options. The idea is our clients can, there isn't a single test that will give them everything they want. So you do not want to use one test for an apprentice, the same as a CFO, as a software developer. So we give the choice on the platform to say, right, you might want to mix a bit of this and a bit of that, and we'll find the perfect blend. And I think going back to the way my brain works is that solution selling. That's why it's such a good fit, because I've got such a range of choice that I can go bit of this one, bit of that one, perfect result. So
fab.
Yeah.
And I think, when we say psychometric testing, can mean a different thing to a lot of different people, right? Particularly people in roles like mine. I mean, we have different variations of the kind of profiling that we can do for candidates and employees. It can be things like behavioral assessments, it can be personality, it can be leadership assessments, it can be things like, abstract and verbal reasoning. Like, there's an abundance of different tools that people can use that they would classify, I suppose, as a psychometric assessment. What is Testgrid? Is it a combination of all, or is it specific to a certain methodology? Talk me through that.
No, it's very much, like I said, we've got that range, and that comes from lots of publishers. So the idea is we take the best tests from around the world. So that might be the UK, the US, Australia, lots of different options. We're constantly scouring for new innovative tools, and that might be everything from what you just said. So your cognitive abilities, do you have that raw capability to do task X? Personality assessment, are you going to be aligned with the organizational values? Are you going to be the right fit for both the candidate and the employer? Your emotional intelligence, what's your resilience levels, all those kind of things, your skills, which is your learned abilities, can you use Excel? So all of those, we take that sort of holistic view, and we say the best recruitment processes have multiple inputs to give you as many different data points as possible. And I think, look, what drives Testgrid is that science-backed approach. So it's really important to us that the assessments we choose are fair, valid, and this is, I guess, a debate I have constantly: is what's the most important thing about a test? Well, does it predict what you want it to predict? So it's great if it's got a good candidate experience, or it's shiny and new, or it's great if it does AI, but does it actually predict the best workforce performance for your organization? That's number one for me.
And so what I'm gathering, and I'm just playing dumb here a little bit for the listeners.
Yeah.
But what I'm gathering is this is a solution that organizations, talent teams, HR teams can actually tap into, where it's not a one-size-fits-all test that a lot of us fall into the trap of having exactly the same test going out to all of the candidates, and we have that kind of consistent approach. But in this case with Testgrid, we can actually hone into what is important for that particular role, for that particular team, for that particular employee, and almost use Testgrid like a marketplace to select the right assessment to be going out to that person to give you the most valuable insight that you need. Is that an accurate assumption?
100%, and I'm going to steal all of that and say that next time. So I think if you look at what we do, or you look at clients that we work with, there's either sort of two types. There's one, like you said, where they try and use one test for absolutely everything, and that would be great for some, and it would be awful for others. Or they have 8 different suppliers, and they use this one here, and this one here, and this one here. And we go, well, stop doing that. And we've had that with clients. We go, well, we've got 6 suppliers, and we go, well, we have 5 of those 6 on our platform. So why don't you just come over here? You don't need to change anything, but rather than dealing with 6 account managers and 6 wills and paying 6 lots of invoices and not having any opportunity to scale, come and talk to Testgrid.
Yeah. It's great. I mean, it's simplicity at its best as well, right? Like, there's nothing worse than managing, multiple, or call them vendors. I don't like the word vendor, but multiple suppliers, invoicing, terms of business, renewals, all of that kind of stuff. Like, even that in itself is providing value. And you also, under the Testgrid banner, have and hi Amy, shout out. I think our listeners know Amy really well in Rubberband, and Amy has spoken with us a number of times. But you have Veepal under that umbrella as well, which is video interviewing. How does that complement Testgrid?
Yeah, so Testgrid's has worked with Veepal for a long time. So Jared, who owns Testgrid, also owned Veepal. They were run as partnership, brother sister kind of businesses for a long time. Testgrid acquired them 2.5 years ago, because it made sense to put all this under the same banner. So I guess we were known just for site testing, but we actually did a lot of video interviewing as well. And I think this is where we come back into that HR tech environment. We have the ability to link all of these processes together. So in the same way that you as a recruiter might not want to use 3 or 4 different vendors, well, it's probably the same thing. You don't want to use Veepal separately and Testgrid separately when you can put it all together. And that's what we're building now. We're building that new ecosystem to pull everything together into a single platform, single user experience. Candidates don't know where you're being fired off to. They're just seeing a single unified experience, and the same for the recruiters and the admin teams.
Fabulous. Well, as mentioned at the start of the podcast, we're here to talk about a brand new product in the Testgrid ecosystem. Will unveil. Tell me, what is the new product, platform, solution? What's it called? What does it do?
Look, I'm really excited about this. I've been involved with a few sort of launches of new tools and new platforms and things at Testgrid. This is the one that seems to have got people most excited, which is brilliant. So this is the Testgrid Scheduler. So it's an all-in-one scheduling and video interviewing platform. So to help you book your candidates in, conduct your interviews, assessment centres, whatever you want to do. And it's the first one in the market that I think has been genuinely designed for recruitment. So, the systems out there, people use Calendly, Eventbrite, and those kind of things, and they're great. But this is designed for recruitment. We know the market, we know the challenges, and we know what we think works. So I'm really excited to start talking about this.
Well, how does it work? Like, what can I compare it to? You said it's the first designed specifically for the recruitment industry. So I can only imagine there are other examples in our day-to-day life where we use something similar, but not within the HR ecosystem. So, is there a comparison you can give me just so I can kind of think about how I can use it?
Yeah, so probably the best way is to think about to going back to, again, to that solving or finding a solution to a problem. Is at Testgrid we're talking with one of our clients, and they run large scale recruitment ongoing throughout the year, and they were finding that it was taking about 3 months to get people through this process.
Wow!
It was taking about 28 touch points. And it was so admin heavy. And they went out to market and said, this cannot continue. Like, this is slowing us down. We have so many bottlenecks. We're losing candidates. We know in this current market, and certainly the market we've seen over the last 12 to 18 months, is that if you're not quick on a candidate, they are going to go off as somewhere else, particularly if they're good. So what we tried to do is build that self-booking portal with integrated video interviewing. So if you think of, I don't know, if you're going to go to your e-health solution, you're going to book your e-health appointment with your doctor, that is a good solution for a doctor. And it's not necessarily always the best one for the user, personally, I've found, but it works in that environment. We hadn't found one that existed that looked at recruitment. Yes, lots of the ATSs might have a solution, and they are, varying degrees of good, bad, and ugly. But certainly the interest we have had in this product has blown me away. And I guess that early feedback of, my first slide is, these are the problems our client was having, and everyone just goes, yes, those are the problems I'm having too.
So it's called either scheduler or scheduler, depending on, tomato. So we'll call it scheduler for now. Yeah. But I just want to peel that back, and I want to go from more of a candidate experience perspective, just so I can be clear on how this works. If I'm a candidate that I apply for a role and they're a scheduler client, what happens to me? So I've applied for a role. Something's happening with the recruiters where I'm sent something. What does that look like for me?
Yeah, I might go even back further a layer and look at it from the admin perspective. So I've heard my wife when I'm working in my office, she's working in her office, and she's reaching out to the hiring manager and going, "Can you give me 3 dates that you can interview this candidate?" And they come back to her in 5 days' time. And then she goes back to the candidate, and the candidate said, "Oh yes, I can do Wednesday." And you go, "Great, hiring manager can do Wednesday." And then the candidate goes, "Oh, I can't do Wednesday anymore. I could 5 days ago, but now I've got something booked in at work." So then you go back to the hiring manager and you go, "Wednesday doesn't work. What have you got? Oh, week next Friday. Great." All of these things reducing your time to hire. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to put that power into the recruiters, the assessors, or whoever's doing the interviews, to upload their own availability. So they're going in and saying, here are the times when I can do something. The administrators can then tick those off and say, yes, absolutely want to do that. You can do load balancing, all those kind of things. And then you invite your candidates into that project. So if you think particularly with volume, when you're scheduling, assessment centers or things where there's lots of candidates going in, you're creating your availability first, and then you're uploading your list of candidates who then get the notification to go, right, I'm going to come in here. I'm going to say I want a remote session, or I want a face-to-face session. If I'm face-to-face, I want to filter by state. I want to look at the dates that and it's from a candidate perspective, it's really simple. They're just going to see a list of times and dates, locations where applicable, click book, and that triggers all of the automations and all of the notifications. So that is, confirmation emails back to the recruiters to say that's booked in. Admins can then see it on the dashboard. So it can all be centrally controlled by the admin recruitment team, and then left for the hiring managers and for the candidates to self-serve within that ecosystem, so that you're not playing the middleman all of the time.
And then how does it differentiate from you use the example Calendly, right? Where,
Yeah.
We can attach that to Outlook or whatever, or Google or whatever we're using, where, people can select a meeting time. But where does it differentiate there?
Yeah, so then you've got the integrated video interviewing. So that's where the candidate has booked their session. They've had all the reminders. They've had their links to please complete these forms before you start, and all that good stuff that you can add in. But then they also come back into the scheduler and they click start the meeting. So no longer are you playing that game of sharing the Teams links or having to go and create the meetings, copying them in. So again, we're just removing that admin burden. And then you come into our video interviewing tool. One-on-one, panels, group assessment centers, whatever you want can all be done, and it's all held within the platform. And then you've got things like your forms that you can have. So while you're interviewing people, checklists, have I checked their ID? Have they completed the session? Would I recommend them? Add comments, all those kind of things, all built into that one platform with as much automation that you like. So Calendly is great. Like, it is a low cost, reasonably flexible solution. It's good at what it does. I think the scheduler takes that complexity and that knowledge of recruitment and goes to the next level and the level beyond to go, well, okay, I don't just want a notification to say it's been booked and something in my calendar and a reminder 24 hours ahead. Maybe I need to have some automation. Maybe I need to say, once I've done this session, I'm then going to get something else to book in for a secondary session. So lots of our clients might do assessments first, which is all controlled and proctored, and then 7 days later they want to book that interview. So you can set those rules to say you can't do the second one before the first one. And we've got these things called freeze periods, which I'm not sure is the best name, but what it does is it controls your candidate and hiring manager and interviewer behavior. So you can say you cannot cancel and rebook 72 hours before the session, for example, without picking up the phone to the administrators. So you're putting a bit of pressure back on. Like, you want to make it easy for them to use, but you also don't want them to cancel, half an hour before you're supposed to be having a meeting.
I know, and I think we can all relate to that. And then you go back to the whole administrative burden of trying to set it up again, right?
Yeah, actually, a bit more urgency.
Those recently, but anyway, we don't. Look, this sounds fabulous, mate, and I know a lot of the community would be really keen to check it out. And the Rubberband community have always been and will continue to be a big supporter of Testgrid. I think you're a really great example of Aussie innovation, and that's what we're all about. So I appreciate you coming in and telling us about it. Now, audience. Will is always available to show you
24/7.
24/7, doesn't matter what time zone you're in, he doesn't sleep. Okay, or everything you learnt from cleaning those pots and working in the pubs, that's, there he is, 24-hour. No, truly, reach out to Will or reach out to myself. Always happy to make an intro. Will's details are obviously easily accessible on LinkedIn. Will, thanks for joining today, and listeners, thank you for listening.
Pleasure. Thanks, Eden. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.